Most people don't even get 20% connect rates on LinkedIn. I'm getting 45% connect rates using piggybacking. Three people didn't believe it. They called me a liar, more or less, and demanded I showed them the receipts. So after I showed them, I laughed in their face, literally laughed in their face, and they want to know my strategy. And to tell you the truth, it's not what I call rocket surgery, okay? It's very simple. I didn't really want to make this content, to be honest. I'm not like a huge LinkedIn guru, so I literally begrudgingly fired up ChatGPT. I told it my exact process. I copied and pasted that into a Google Doc, and then I ended up making way more edits than I wanted. So after about 20 minutes, maybe I even spent a little bit longer on it, believe it or not. So this is valuable content. I spent so much time on it, right? It's my 87-step N8N AI agent workflow masterpiece, and how I'm using piggyback campaigns to get 45% connect rates with LinkedIn. Okay, so let me hop into this doc here, and I'm just going to walk you through the process and what I'm doing and what this even means. Okay, so first of all, a couple little prerequisites. I'm going to see how this looks on my screen here. Maybe I'll zoom in. Yeah, I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, you want a Sales Navigator subscription. You don't want to be sending a lot of connection requests out when you do not have a Sales Navigator license, because it's easier to get your account banned, okay? And plus, you can do advanced filters for this process. All right, you're going to want a warmed LinkedIn profile. Okay, so you want a good profile. All right, if you haven't done LinkedIn outreach and stuff in the past, you haven't grown your following, you want to do it slowly. Okay, so they'll ban your account. All right. Optional is using an automation tool like an Expandy, HeyReach, Skyleads. Okay. Especially if you don't have like a good kind of warmed up profile, I wouldn't use an automation tool. But of course, we all want to automate things. So, hopefully you've got at this point a profile that, has some sort of activity on it. And then, recommended like a good profile, like if you've got followers and like you're actually active on the profile, you're posting regularly and things like that, these things are actually going to help with your connection rate. All right, so this is a little bit outside of the actual strategy, but just things I recommend. And if you're not getting the 45% connection rate, maybe it's because of some of these little things. Okay. All right. So here's the core concept of this strategy and what I call piggyback campaigns and why you even call it that. All right. So you want to target prospects who share a mutual connection. Okay. So we're piggybacking on the credibility of someone else and that mutual connection. So I'll show you I'm going to hop into Sales Navigator and I'll show you an actual search and things of that nature. Okay. So I'll explain that a little bit more and what that means. We're basically piggybacking on someone else's profile effectively. Okay, and then we want to restrict some of our searches to like second degree connections. Okay, so we want this to be as targeted as possible. If you're doing third degree and things like that, then you don't get as good of results. You want to include only prospects who've posted recently on LinkedIn. Okay, so there's a lot of people that are on LinkedIn, they post, they're not active, okay, or they don't post and they're not active. If they've posted on LinkedIn, it's a signal that they're actually active on LinkedIn. So this is how we can improve the results. So let me take you through kind of the step-by-step workflow, and I'll hop into Sales Navigator. So basically, you want to define your ICP. Who do you want to target? Founders, owners in the U.S. with 1 to 10 employees. Certain job functions, job titles, all that kind of stuff. So let me hop into like Sales Navigator. If you're in here, all right, let's say I want to target, self-employed and 1 to 10 people, right? These are like literally the simplest little things. Now, function, I like to do function. So you might want to do like, I don't know who you're targeting, but I like to do like business development, sales, and entrepreneurship. Just depends on your ideal customer profile. All right, and then geography, I normally just do, United States. Okay, this isn't hard stuff. That's pretty much all I do for filters on this left side. Now getting into some of the other things, these are like our ICP filters. So here's one little growth hack there. Use the posted on LinkedIn recently. Okay, now let's get into the kind of piggybacking. So more or less, you want to select your connection. So obviously you don't want to be like sending connection requests the first three because you're already connected. So it's not even possible. But just pick second degree connections. All right. But now here you want to pick connections of. Okay. So and what you want to do here is you want to pick like an industry insider. Okay. So if I'm trying to target, people like a specific audience or niche, let's just say like I'm going to pick Joey Gilkey. Okay, so his audience are people that like are into cold calling and, outbound and things like that. So, if they're connections with him, right? So like these are second degree connections of people with Joey Gilkey. So I'm connected to Joey and Joey's connected to these people. So we share the common connection of Joey. And if they're following him, they're likely to be interested in outbound. Okay, so that's for me. So you're gonna have to take that to your situation. You're gonna have to find an industry insider or insiders. I recommend doing several. Now, when you do these filters, you can only do one at a time, unfortunately. So like if you try to if you try to grab a second one, it just replaces it. So what I recommend doing is running your search here, okay, and getting your list and then running another one. So I do like three of these at a time and I put them into a campaign. Okay, so and if you're using like LinkedIn automation and stuff like that, there's a process to grab like the URL profile, URL inside of here and all that kind of stuff. You can use it for your LinkedIn automation. Okay, so a couple little housekeeping items here throughout this process. So I explained up to here. You probably want to scan through each profile for relevance. So just kind of give it I just sort of scan through like, are these, okay, CEO, strategy consultant, kind of questionable. Advisor to startups, yeah, seems right. Founder, CEO, founder, advisor. Like, even if I got my message in front of people, like it's building awareness, right? So these seem right, but go ahead and add any exclusions that you need to build a more relevant search for however you're doing, okay? And I shoot for like kind of like around like 1,000 leads or so, 500 to 1,000 or something like that. It doesn't really matter. Just like you can set this up on autopilot and just have it running like all the time. Okay, so now you're probably wondering like, okay, that's great. That's how I build the list. That's the strategy. I'm piggybacking on someone else's profile. We're sharing a common connection. That's the concept. Now, how do you connect with them? First of all, like I don't use a connection request message. Okay, I just don't. I don't know why. I don't really like. I have like several years ago like A/B tested this stuff, but I'm not like this huge LinkedIn guru guy that's like A/B testing this. Like that's me on email, but I don't use it. If I were to do a connection message, this is what I would do. I'd say something like, "Hey, first name, so we're both connected to mutual connection. Would be great to connect." And yes, I purposely made it so like the English and grammar was not correct here. I do that to just make things look human. So proper grammar would say like, "It would be great to connect with you." Like I just try to make things look as human as possible, and I purposely use bad grammar and things like that to do it. So, but I don't use this. This is just what I would do. All right, post connection kind of playbook. I like to do immediate follow up. You want to post regularly, of course. If you can add value, in a DM, 3 to 5 days later or something like that, throw a call to action in there. If you have a lead magnet of some sort, I'll show you my messages and what I'm doing. It's super simple. So I'm not necessarily trying to book meetings with people personally. Okay, so here's my like immediately after they accept the connection request. I say, "Great to connect. See you in the news feed," as I post, a few times a week and stuff on LinkedIn. And then I just say, "P.S. If cold email is a good channel to get clients, check out this workshop on how Steve Beller booked 763 plus sales calls." And then I just give them a link to my webinar. That's it. Like I'm not trying to get on sales calls with people, so I'm just trying to raise awareness, get traffic to the website, our assets. I want people to sign up, all that kind of stuff. For you, you could change this out to some other lead magnet or a call to action. I could, and if I were to write this message to try to book sales calls, I would just write a lead magnet. So I would probably just keep this the same. P.S. If cold email is a good channel, I would do mind if I share video on how Steve Biller booked 763 sales calls. Like I don't want to manage replies in LinkedIn, so I don't want to do this. But I mean, we have a lower ticket product, right? So I'm not selling high ticket here. So I just want to send them the asset. But what I would do is just put a call to action, send them the video, and then just keep track of the people that you send the videos, and then follow up with them after you've sent them the video. Likelihood of them watching it are probably slim, but like they've raised their hand, they've said they're interested, right? Now they're an interested lead. You can reach out to them an email, you can call them, you can follow up with them on LinkedIn, so on and so forth. Okay, so get into some technical stuff. I'm not the big LinkedIn guru guy here. So, but I know there's limits, right? So, and I try to stay under the limits. So, I'm sending like 25 a day or something like that and doing, a maximum of 20 follow-up emails. And I know the system's on withdrawing the invites after a certain amount of time. Okay, so just make sure that you follow and kind of stay within the guidelines. Here's like actually some of my numbers. Okay, so I had sent numbers kind of got updated since I took a screenshot here. I guess it sent some more connections, but when I typed it in here, I had 447 invites sent, 206 accepted, and it was a 46%. So I guess as of like yesterday or something when I pulled this, it's at like 45. It goes up and down. And then the key drivers here, I'm rotating the insider. So I'm building several lists and I'm adding all the lists inside of one campaign. Okay, so it's just picking and choosing, which, insider lists. So like this campaign has 3,000 connect or leads in it. Okay, so this is gonna just keep running, and the system is continuing to add more and more leads to it. So there's literally nothing that I need to do from here, unless I want to change my messaging and my follow up and stuff like that. So this is the one I have actively running. This is one that I've ran in the past that had a lot more volume. I had shut it off. I'd stopped even doing LinkedIn automation and stuff, but you can even see at a higher volume scale, I had a 41% connection rate. I had different lists that I was using then. I feel like these lists are actually a little bit better for my ICP now. And so the better you can, pick with those industry insiders and the filters, the better you're going to drive that connection percentage up. But just to show you, like I have done this at volume and like this was just running and running and running. And interestingly, I noticed like when I stopped doing LinkedIn outreach and connections and just sending quick little follow-up messages to people and I'm posting on LinkedIn, my engagement on LinkedIn like dropped significantly. So like I don't get the reach. And part of the reason why I even picked up LinkedIn automation again is because my posts aren't getting the reach that they used to get. Now LinkedIn's making changes and so I need to adapt and continue to get better at LinkedIn posts. But I have noticed like just not communicating with people in DMs, I believe what happens is they're not seeing the post then inside of the newsfeed, and then as you're getting more connections and accepting more, or like people are accepting those connection requests, then they're more likely to see your posts in the newsfeed as well. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword there. So that's why I decided to continue or keep doing it. So from troubleshooting, if you have a low connection percentage, like under 30%, like I'd probably just consider rebuilding your lists and or doing it manually. Okay, picking better mutual connections. You don't like the lower the connection rate is, the more risk that you have that your profile is going to get banned. Okay, I don't like to be salesy, all right, and you should have a strong profile. Okay, make it look like you're somebody that does something somewhere in the world on the internet and not have just some random weird profile. Like my profile is not like the best, but it's pretty good, in the world of LinkedIn profiles. Like, I've got I guess 13,000 followers. Like, I post regularly. I have things on it. I look like an actual human being. Okay, so things are actually important. I've got a somewhat updated profile picture, professional profile, like those things actually do matter. So stay under the LinkedIn limits, withdraw those pending requests, as I mentioned, engage on the feed, like inside of the news feed. It's helpful to keep the like social selling index in LinkedIn, higher. They have an actual score for this, which I think is stupid, but I guess that's the way they do it. If you want a little checklist, here's a little checklist that you can do. Otherwise, just take this document. Any FAQs you might have, what if I lack a strong mutual connections? Like you're going to have to go find some. So what I would recommend, like if you don't have good like industry insiders that are like strong connections that are visible in your space, like go and connect with some. Okay, it's that simple. Current customers, partners, all that kind of stuff. People who have a reach on LinkedIn. You don't want that mutual connection to be like somebody that doesn't have any reach. You want them to be a guru. Okay, they should be good at what they do, so that when LinkedIn is showing your connection messages to people, or the list of connections. Okay, so if I come into here and I see, like you can see here, like this person sent me a connection request, right? So on and so forth, have and 30 other mutual connections and 15 other mutual connections and 22 mutual connections. That stuff matters, okay? So that's, important when you are building, these lists and stuff like that. Does pitching in a connection hurt acceptance? I'm not 100% positive. I'd suggest you A/B test that. Okay, can you reuse the same insider across thousands of prospects? Again, I rotate those insider lists. So I just come up with, top, gurus basically in the space, and I just throw them all inside of the campaigns. You might want to track them individually. So if you want to send a connection message to them and do something like I showed you up here, where it's saying like you're dropping the name, or hey, Sal, we're both, connected to Joey, you know, whoever would be great to connect. If you want to do that, then you can run those in separate campaigns and you want to keep your lists separately. Okay. So all right, that's all I have for you. If you got some value from this training, it's outside of my norm with email content. I'd love for you to check out Lead Engine, which is a cold email stack engineered for speed. You can enrich your lists, write AI copy at scale, build autopilot cold email systems, and you can get 100 enrichment credits free plus $5 towards third-party enrichment products. Lead Magic, Prospeo, Find Email, that kind of stuff. All right, and we do have a promo as of the recording of this, starting at one-time $99 lifetime plans for any of our engines, and or a $59 subscription to our unlimited plans. Those prices are changing in just a matter of a few days. So if you miss out on it, then the price has probably changed. Okay, so I'd love for you to check it out, and I hope this was helpful.